All right, so we're being asked to solve for y. And so what does that mean? So you've got 5x plus 8y equals 40. And we're going to use our algebraic rules, the adding and subtracting both sides and multiplying and dividing by both sides. And the idea is we want to get y all by itself. Now, if you think about it, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Because we're doing algebra, we're going to work from the bottom to the top. So first we're going to take care of all the addition and subtraction. Then we're going to do the multiplication and division. All right, so first let's take a look. Do we see any addition and subtraction? And yes, we do. It's right here. So we want to get this 8y all by itself. So we need to get rid of the 5x. First thing you need to know is that's a positive 5x because there's no symbol in front of it, which means it must have been a positive 5x. So now, how do you get rid of that positive 5x? Well, you minus 5x from both sides. That's supposed to be an x. All right, so positive 5x minus 5x cancels out, and that leaves us with just 8y on the left side. Now on the right side, 40 and 5x are not like terms, so you can't subtract them and get 35. They are not like terms, so we're going to write negative 5x plus 40. Now if I wanted to, I could have written this as 40 minus 5x, and that would have been the same thing. These are the same, they mean the same thing. If you think about it, that's a positive 40, there's a positive 40. Here's a negative 5x, here's a negative 5x. So they mean the same thing. I chose to write the 5x or the negative 5x in the front. So now in terms of that y, because we're trying to solve for the y, there is no more addition and subtraction, so I can cross that off. Now it's time to take care of the multiplication and division. And you see that the y is connected to the 8 through multiplication. So how do we fix that? It means we divide both sides by 8. Now, when we divide this side by 8, well, I'm gonna do it in 2 steps. Divide that whole thing by 8. Now, what does that mean? Well, first off, 8 divided by 8 is 1, so the left side is just y. Now the right side, this is actually 2 division problems. First, it's going to be negative 5 divided by 8x, plus it's going to be 40 divided by 8. So you see how each of these terms is being divided by 8. So y equals, because there's nothing else to do right here, y is y, that's what we wanted. And now we're just kind of making this side look pretty. Well, negative 5/8 x, there's nothing you can do there. So it stays the same. But 40 divided by 8 is 5, and there is your answer. So what we've done is we have solved for y, because y is now all by itself. Something I want to point out, the importance of lining up those equal signs and how everything is done step by step at a time, and all the while you're lining up your equal signs so that it looks nice and organized and pretty. All right, now here we're being asked to solve for m. So you have a equals jm, and I have no idea why it's capitalized. That's kind of annoying to me. But we want to get m all by itself. There's no addition or subtraction, so now we're going to take care of the multiplication and division, and this j is connected to the m by multiplication. So how do you undo the multiplication? You divide. And we're going to divide both sides by j because we want to get m all by itself. When we divide j by j, that gives us a 1. So all of a sudden, m is now all by itself on the right side, and the left side here, nothing you can simplify. So it just becomes a divided by j, and there you go, a divided by j. And that is your answer. So m equals a over j. Now, when you type this answer into your answer, you have to use capitals. So it has to be A over J, capitals, right? When you type it in. If you do A over J like that, it will mark it wrong. So you need to, it's like case sensitive. All right, so on this one, we are solving for P. So we are going to start by writing the problem. So you get 1/6 pi n squared P. All right, now I'm going to expand this a little bit. So this becomes D equals, and then I'm going to put 1/6 times pi times n squared times P. All right, so I do that because I want to emphasize the fact that all of these are being multiplied, which means in order to get P all by itself, it means we're going to do division, or we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to start by multiplying by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 6 over 1 because that's going to get rid of this 1/6 because that becomes 1, right? And so now you end up with 6D is equal to pi times n squared times P. Gee whiz. And now, because we want to get P all by itself and it's connected to these guys by multiplication, that means I can now divide both sides by pi n squared. Pi n squared. Remembering that means pi times n squared, and this means pi times m squared. So the reason I want that is because pi divided by pi, that's 1. N squared divided by n squared equals 1. So the right side equals P. And then the left side cannot be simplified. It's as easy or simple as it gets. And so there is your answer, 6D over pi times n squared. Now that is the answer they want you to enter up here. So they notice that they want you to type in two separate parts. They want you to type in the numerator in the top box and the denominator in the bottom box. All right, so now they want us to solve for the specific variable, and in this case they're telling us, I want you to solve for R. So we've got B is equal to 1/4 m and then R plus K. All right, so we want to get that R all by itself, okay? But we have some multiplication going on. So we've got this piece times this piece. So I want to get rid of the 1/4 m. So I'm going to do that in 2 steps. First, I'm going to multiply by 4 over 1. And so that gives me 4b is equal to, and then that becomes a 1, so it kind of goes away, m times r plus k. But we still have this kind of like, think of this as a quantity, a number times a number. And I want to get r plus k all by itself, so I'm going to get rid of this m, which means now I'm going to divide both sides by m. And so what does that end up giving us? Well, m divided by m, that's a 1. So the right side is r plus k, and the left side is 4b divided by m. All right, so now I want that r to be all by itself. So I need to get rid of the plus k. Well, it's adding. So how do I get rid of it? I subtract k from both sides. So plus k minus k, that's 0. So that's r on the right side. And then the left side is easier than it seems. It's 4b over m. That was the original part. And then minus k. And there's our answer. I think half the battle on this problem is going to be figuring out how to type that answer into your box right there, because it's kind of tricky typing this in my math lab into the correct answer. All right, this is a nice one. Solve for R. So again, it's all case sensitive. I'm not sure why they want it like this. I equals PRT, and we are supposed to solve for R. And I'm going to do this in 2 steps because all of this is being connected by multiplication. So if I want to get rid of the P and I want to get rid of the T, I'm going to divide by PT, which means I'm going to divide by PT. And what does that give us? Well, P divided by P is 1. T divided by T is 1. So the right side is just R. The left side, nothing cancels. That's as simple as it gets. So it's I over PT, and there's your answer. Keep in mind, when you type the answer into the box, it's got to be case sensitive, so everything is capitalized. All right, now we're solving for N. So we've got Q is equal to 3N plus 3W. And so since we want to get that N all by itself, the first thing, kind of remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, but solving algebra means we're going to do addition and subtraction first, which means we got to get rid of that 3W because we're trying to get the N all by itself. And so plus 3W minus 3W, that equals 0. So we're end up with 3N on the right, and we have Q minus 3W on the left. And then, because we want to get N all by itself, we're going to divide by 3. And here, we're going to divide by 3. And so 3 divided by 3, that's a 1. So that gives you N on the right. And the left side, you could just leave it just like this. Q minus 3W over 3. I believe, so that's the answer. But I believe if you want, you could separate this into 2 sections. It could be Q divided by 3 minus 3W over 3. And you could keep going here. And this would be then 3 divided by 3 is 1. So you could have Q divided by 3 minus W equals N. So this answer and this answer are the same answer even though they look different. I just simplified this one a little bit differently. So I believe my math lab will allow you to type either of those answers into the box up here. I do want to point out, I'm just going to keep doing it, the importance of, check out the fact that, let's see, where are we? There we are. That all of the equal signs, boom, 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 kind of lined up. That's the goal, right? Is to try and be nice and neat. So here we are being asked to solve for Q. So boy, Q is really embedded in there a whole lot. So here is our formula. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this fraction. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 over 1. And when I multiply both sides by 5 over 1, this becomes 5 divided by 5, which is 1. And so that ends up being, the right side ends up being P plus Q plus R, because essentially we got rid of the 5s. The left side is 5y. All right, and I'm trying to keep that a capital because that's the way it's written. And now I want to get rid of both the P and the R. And keep in mind that P is a positive because there's no symbol in front of it. So how are you going to get rid of that positive P? You're going to subtract P. How are you going to get rid of this R? You're going to subtract R. So I'm going to subtract P and subtract R from the left side. So I'm kind of skipping a step here and cramming it into 2. two steps into one. And so that becomes 0. This becomes 0. So we're left with just q. In the left side, you end up with 5y minus p minus r, and that is your answer. So when you type that answer into the box, make sure you use a capital Y and then a lowercase p and a lowercase r. And there you go. And again, just kind of hitting home over and over and over that straight line connecting all of those equal signs. All right, so it says solve for s, and you'll notice, boy, s shows up twice, and it's in that at the denominator of the fractions. Yuck. All right, but it's not hard, because if you think about it, a over s minus b over s, if that was like 3/4 minus 1/4, you know that you can just subtract the top numbers and put it on top of a 4. Well, we could do the same thing. So this becomes a minus b over s equals 1. All right. And now I'm going to multiply both sides by s over 1. And when I multiply both sides by s over 1, that becomes a 1. So the left side ends up being a minus b, because we kind of like got rid of the s's. But then all of a sudden an s shows up on this side, it becomes s, because s over 1 times 1, anything times 1 is itself. And so s. And there, hey, look at that, we're done. Done. We have just solved for s. So that wasn't so bad at all. And so you're going to put the answer right there. In this one, we're going to solve for b. So we've got this funky equation. Really, it's a meaningless equation. They just kind of made it there, made it up. It doesn't actually have any realistic, real-life application. So anyway, we're trying to get b all by itself. And the first thing I'm noticing is that b shows up twice. So I want to get them next to each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract fb from both sides. Now, fb minus fb, that equals 0. So on the right side, you end up with just fr. And then on the left side, you get wb minus fb. All right? And now, you'll notice that this b shows up twice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the distributive property. And I'm going to take out that b, and on the inside I end up with w minus f. And take a moment and make sure you understand why these two lines are the same. Because b times w is wb, b times negative f is negative fb. So these two lines are the exact same, and that's equal to fr. Now, because I want b all by itself, and b is being connected to this thing by multiplication, so how do you get rid of something that's connected by multiplication? You divide. In this case, we're going to divide both sides by w minus f. And so this right here is equal to 1 whole. So our left side is b. And our right side is fr over w minus f. And all of that is lowercase. And so that is going to be your answer for up there. Here we're being asked to solve this big, huge, ugly equation, solve for x. So we want to get x all by itself. And so what I've done here is I've got this equation. Now I'm kind of lazy. I wrote everything in lowercase. I just have to remember that when I get my final answer and I type it in, I have to make everything uppercase. All right, so solving for x. And I notice I've got x showing up in 2 places, right? And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this guy, get him out of the way. So I'm going to subtract 2yz from both sides. So that means this becomes 0. So the left side becomes w minus 2yz. And then the right side is just 2yx plus 2zx. All right. So now I'm going to use, let me finish that there. Now I'm going to use the distributive property and get the x to show up only once. And so when I use the distributive property, it's going to look like this. So when I take out the x, I'm left with a 2y. And when I divide out the x, I'm left with a 2z. And so that's how I get x times the quantity 2y plus 2z. And if you want, you can just use the distributive property to verify that this and this are the same thing. They just look different. Now the left side is still w minus 2yz. Nothing we can do to simplify that. And so now I want to get x all by itself, so I'm going to divide by 2y plus 2z. And I'm going to divide by 2y plus 2z, both sides. And so what happens on the right side? Well, this whole thing turns into a big old fat 1 right there. And so that means the right side ends up being just a plain old x. And the left side, nothing you can do to make this simpler. So the left side is just w minus 2yz over 2y plus 2z. And that is our answer. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Couple of things. First, notice equal signs, nice straight line. And then the other thing is a reminder that when you type this into your answer up there, it has to be case sensitive. So because the question was originally all in capitals, that means your answer has to be all in capitals. And that wraps up this whole video.